Hi, everyone. Kathy Beltran with Sacred Dance with Trance. I am super excited to again have fellow member of Sacred Dance with Trance, international spiritual medium, teacher, trance healer, Jason Goldsworthy here again for a part 2 interview this time, talking about his development of physical mediumship. So everybody, welcome Jason Goldsworthy.
Thank you. Hello.
Oh my goodness. Jason, first let me go ahead and I want to bring in all the links so that you guys can easily connect with Jason. His website is jasongoldsworthy.com. His Facebook page is Spirit Medium, Jason Goldsworthy, so that's Facebook. His first interview that we did, I believe, was just a little over 1 month ago. And that was on Trance Healing. So definitely, if you haven't checked that out, definitely, because man, that was an awesome interview. So you can find that within the group in the files, or you can go straight to YouTube, my YouTube channel, Kathy Beltran, and find it there. So definitely, if you haven't watched it, definitely I recommend watching it. So Jason, I'm so grateful to you for doing this part 2 with us. I can't wait to hear all about your development with the physical mediumship. So let's get started. If you guys want to know his whole story, watch 1 because he tells you everything from the beginning. So right now we're going to go into how he got into the physical mediumship. So if you could let us know how you were drawn to that area.
It's interesting, Kathy, because what I always thought, and I said that in the last part as well, I always thought mediumship, we only do normal mediumship, you know, we have communication and that's it. And whenever I had a private sitting, whether it was different people, they'd say to me, you should get a circle and have them sitting for you. But you have to remember, I lived in Holland then, and there wasn't very medium circles then, and we weren't aware of physical mediumship that much. Well, in any way, I wasn't. And when I was learning about mediumship, I was just so fascinated with physical mediumship. I just thought I just couldn't get enough of it. So I went to see Scott Milligan, and I went to see David Thompson, and I went to see all these physical mediums. I just thought I was just so fascinated with it. And the first thing I did was I sat in a group of people, we sat just for the spirit world. And that would have been about, you know, if I think about it, would have been almost about 10 years ago. And we just sat for the spirit world, just for the spirit. And sometimes we'd be doing a bit of trance, and sometimes we'd be doing a bit of mental mediumship, and we'd mix it up a bit. But the joy of sitting in circle just for the spirit world was just wonderful. But it progressed from there. In the end, I just thought, well, I need to sit for physical medium. So we sat for a physical medium for a while. There didn't come any physical things that we could see. I also sat for another circle for a physical medium. I felt really comfortable sitting for other people, but I kept getting these messages from other people. Why don't you sit for yourself? And it wasn't I think it was about 3.5 years ago, maybe a little bit longer than 3.5 years, probably about 4 years ago, when I got in contact with the Skull Project. And I thought, let's have a go at this, because I was still denying the fact that I'm going to sit for myself. So I said, let's sit for the spirit world, and the spirit world will produce all this wonderful stuff. And so we sat for Skull, and I kept getting these messages from colleagues and other mediums saying to me, look, why don't you just sit for yourself? You know, why do you have to sit for Skull? And we were fascinated with how the energy-based actually brought, well, you know, the feel that spirit was there, and there was nice things happening very quickly in an energy-based circle. Mm-hmm. But after getting the last message from a friend of mine, and she said, well, why don't you just sit physical? I thought, okay, let's sit and try it out. Little did I know, someone that was sitting in a circle had already got this idea that they were going to build me a cabinet. And I didn't ask him to do it, but he did it because he thought, well, if these other people are sitting in cabinets, you should be sitting in the cabinet. And so the transition from Skull Project to sitting in the dark and sitting in a cabinet, that went quite smoothly. And I think when we were sitting in the circle, that we would have only been sitting, a couple of times, and we were hearing the taps and the knocks, and the energy was very good. And I think the energy was a telltale sign, because it would get very, very cold, and the energy would be electric. So it would be like this electric energy going on in the seance room. And if I rewind to when I was a child, and I think it's now that I think about things that used to happen, things used to disappear, like keys would disappear and they'd reappear somewhere else. I had objects moving in my room. I had objects moving in the house, all that sort of thing. So there was a lot of physical activity in my teenage years. So really, after only wanting to be because in that healing of giving energy to someone else, for me to actually make the step and say, right, okay, guys, you can sit for me in a circle. It was a big decision, and even then, I was glad that we could sit in the dark, because I didn't like the idea of people looking at me. But that's a bit how it really began, and that was about when we started sitting every week. It was about 4 years ago, 3.5 years ago, constantly, and that's when we were changing over from the energy based to the physical, sitting in physical circle.
So that takes a lot for you to be a sitter for somebody else and let them develop. I mean, it's like dedication to do that and be that way for spirit. And so now you're doing this, and it's been what, 3.5 years, 4 years that you're.
Yes.
And I know that in our last interview, I believe you told me that you had 2 circles. Is that still going on, the 2 separate circles?
Yes, because what was happening was there was a lot of healing happening in the circle. So I'd be going into what you would call, in the beginning, there'd be a bit of trance speaking coming on. Then they'd bring me suddenly into the deep, where there'll be physical energy happening. And at the end, there'll be like a healing energy coming on. And people were feeling in the healing energy, physical things happening within themselves. And a good friend of mine, Marlene Woolgar from England, she's been a medium for 20 years. And she said to me, you should have a different circle, because I was sitting about 2.25 hours in circle. And she said, you want to bring that down to at least 1.5 hours. So that's why we had to move the healing part out. Also with my guide, Dr. John, that went with that, who has a really enjoyable time in the other circle, but it makes more room to develop the physical. So this was not something that I planned. This is something that just happened,
Yeah, but that's amazing that you're doing both still, Yeah. So as a physical medium, can you explain in your own words the mechanics of physical mediumship as you understand it?
Well, I think the best way to explain it is like making bread. When you get a recipe for making bread, if you've got to have all the specific ingredients in place before the physical phenomena can happen. And so you've got to, if you've got too much sugar, your bread's just going to explode. If you've got not enough sugar, it's just going to stay flat, and when you get your ingredients right, that's how I see like the physical circle. And we've gone, as a circle, we've gone through a whole thing. When I first started, I had eight people sitting for me. Within a month, that changed, and I only had about 2 people sitting for me. Then that changed, and we had 4 people. And it was always trying to get the balance within the sitters in the circle. You see, what people realize is a physical medium has to have a certain amount, they have to be able to produce ectoplasm. And ectoplasm, meaning outside of themselves, but also like a form or mass that is created. But it's created through different chemicals and different reactions, like neutrons and protons and everything that comes together. But what we've been told from the spirit world is that it's taken not only from the medium, the ingredients, but there's a whole spiritual chemist there working with all the sitters as well. So we've found when the balance is not there, that my guide Oliver will speak up and say, well, we're working on you now, and people will feel that they're feeling pricks, and they'll be feeling that there's some things that they're physically being touched, they're physically doing. And what they're doing is that they're testing and making sure that everything's getting into balance. And it's not only that they'll be doing that with me as the medium, but they'll be doing that with the sitters as well. Whenever we've had a new sitter, we've always said, well, just relax. You can be touched, but you can also feel a sort of acupuncture points, and you can feel that they'll be testing you. Sometimes they'll crack your back, because that's what they do. They put stuff into alignment, because when someone comes new into the circle, they want to get that atmosphere and balance, that we become as a oneness of energy in the circle, before we can continue with development for me as a medium.
Wow.
And that's something to think about. It's not just like the process of the medium being able to produce the ectoplasm and to produce this phenomena. It's like it's a group thing that's happening. And I think it's really wonderful to realize that whenever we've had, like we said, and we've had our concerns about having a sitter in there or whatever, and the spirit will say, it's okay, we're readjusting the balance. And the controllers managed to say, look, we are now working on this person's neck, and they'll be working on this person's neck. We're now just testing over here, and everyone was feeling the testing. But it's definitely been a journey to get balance within our circle. And whenever we've had a sitter that I would say is not the right ingredient, not because the sitter's a bad person, but just because the chemical makeup of that person or that person's body or energy isn't quite in balance with the rest of the group. And what I've noticed the spirit will do then, they will take me within, and it's like you just, all the energy just forms around me in the cabinet and will not expand outside the cabinet. And when there's balance and harmony and everything's right, that's when the energy and everything goes out into the circle. So it's very fascinating how it works, but there is a lot more behind what we realize, what we haven't realized or can comprehend is going on in the physical circle that, that people say. So it's not just that the medium can produce all this phenomena, the setting has to be right. So I see that as the temperature of the oven has to be right, So really what it is basically taking the enzymes and everything from the pancreas and from different things to create an ectoplasm, or to create the physical phenomena that can happen within the circle. That's how we're understanding it now, and we always listen to spirit to see if it changes, if they've got any other ideas for us.
I'm so glad that you brought up the circle and the members of the circle, because I know everybody knows that the harmony has to be there within with each other, but you're talking like energetic makeup here. You're talking about everybody connecting as one. So, yes. And the emphasis that you put on that, because we often are just so focused on the physical medium, we don't think about the members that have to be there to make that happen, to help that happen. Wow, yeah. Really, I'm so glad you shared that, your understanding on that.
But to remember also, like, everyone's human, and you want to have everyone balanced, and everyone's, in the time of circle, everyone's got to be in balance with each other. And if one person doesn't get on with another, then the energy balance is not going to be there, and then phenomena will not happen. There'll be no balance. So it's also looking for sitters that are compatible, spiritually, mentally, but also that they can physically sit. Knowing that the spirit chemists are working with them, like I've said, we've just had a sitter in the circle where we've noticed where the energy's just gone vroom. Outside the cabinet, it's just gone flat. And inside the cabinet, I've been fine. But all the sitters have been feeling totally different to me. So 4 weeks, just taking the trial period to see if the sitter will fit in. And we've had to say, no, sorry, it's not working. The moment they're gone, the energy goes like that. It goes up just like that. So it's very important to know that who's sitting in circle and what position they're sitting in as well. Because if somebody's sick, we found to find balance. People might be sitting in a certain way, but if somebody is sick, then there's a little imbalance in the circle, and we just test and see to feel if we need to change the way people are sitting just for that time to find that balance again.
Wow. Yeah, that's a lot to be aware of in a circle, you know?
Yes.
Very amazing to me. Okay, so I always ask everybody this. Now, this is your physical mediumship. I already know about the trance healing and stuff, but
Yeah.
Is sitting in the power important to develop as a physical medium?
I feel it is. All those years ago, when I go back, you know, I feel that when I was developing my mediumship all those years ago, I sat, you know, in 2003, I was sitting for meditation and I was doing healing and stuff like that. But whenever I went to do sitting in the power or meditation, I just went into like a trance state. So, and I didn't know it was a trance state because everyone's like, oh, sitting in the power was great. And I was like, I was just gone. And then half an hour later, I'd come back and I'd be, right, did I just go to sleep? Or, you know, that sort of feeling. And I was like, asking other people, and they say, no, I sat and I talked to my guide. And I thought, well, I didn't get any of that. All I was going and sitting in the power, and I was going into what you call a passive power state, which is good for trance, but wasn't good for the mental mediumship as we know to one-to-ones, because you need the quickening of the spirit to do that. So if you sit in a passive state before you do that mental mediumship, you end up just almost not quite feeling the spirit because you're still in that passive state. So sitting in the power is very important because it really gets your mind out of the beta and into the alpha and into the theta. And you want to be getting your mind out of the way as soon as possible. And I think I actually, you know, had been sitting at least 4 or 5 years in the power before I decided to go into this sitting in trance as well, you see. And it's like knowing that if you're sitting in the power, it's like creating the energy that's needed to develop, and it's personal development time. It's like you know, I felt with sitting in the power, it was like an activation of your soul's energy on levels that maybe you wouldn't even understand, you know. And that's how I felt about sitting in the power and development, getting the mind out of the way and activating your soul's energy.
You know, I remember now, after I got done with that first interview with you, you so inspired me to go sit again. So I'm feeling it's starting to happen again, you know? So, okay, what is the difference? And people get confused a lot with this, between sitting for physical and sitting for trance. Is it the same or is it completely different?
It's completely different, because sitting for trance, you're sitting, you're also going into an altered state of consciousness, but you sit in the light. You don't need to sit in the dark for trance. Say my trance healing circle is in the light, and it feels different. You feel like you're drifting away in a trance circle, but it's different. The energy feels different because when you sit in a trance and physical, the solar plexus starts to speed up. You start getting the feelings and sensations of like a pulling or a pain in the solar plexus. You start feeling sort of electric energy around yourself, and that quickening starts to happen about a half an hour before you sit. It can start to build up from about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and when you sit at about 7 o'clock, your energy's ready to go. So it's like a different energy, very very electric, very fine energy.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I know that you said that that someone built a cabinet for you. Do you sit in a cabinet every time you sit?
Only when I'm sitting for physical, but yes, I do. Yeah, once a week I sit in the cabinet, and I love it.
Okay, if you can remember, I'm always going to say this. What is the difference? Like when you sit in the cabinet and you feel spirit versus not sitting in the cabinet and feeling spirit. Is there a difference with that? Sitting for physical and feeling spirit come around?
When you sit in the cabinet, the buildup of energy around your body and around your face, around my face, and the body feelings that I feel when going into trance, it feels like it's very solid, very electric, and when spirit connects to you, it feels like the energy is building up within the space that you're sitting. When I sit in trance, not in the cabinet but somewhere else, I just feel myself going off and spirit connecting to me, but it's not that sort of like physical build-up around your face or physical build-up around your body that you feel in the energy. That's the beginning that I notice. But when I go further into trance in the physical cabinet, sometimes I don't feel anything, and I'll wake up, or when I come out, I'll come out and I'll just feel like I've got pins and needles in my arms, pins and needles in my legs, and that's when the physical sensations come back from where you're at. I don't have that when I'm sitting in a trance state in a room, not in a cabinet. So I think that's the obvious thing I noticed that's different between the two.
Is a cabinet needed to develop physical mediumship?
I feel it is, because that's what I feel, and I feel that you need a room that's dark and closed off from the light, because basically a cabinet, it holds the energy around the medium, it holds the energy around in the space and around the medium, and it amplifies the energy when sitting. When sitting in an open space, your energy can expand out into the room, but when sitting in the cabinet, it stays close to you, and there's more going on within the energy inside the cabinet.
There's a lot of talk in our group, I think way back when, of people going into a cabinet just to feel the difference in the energy in there, especially when that cabinet was used for physical mediumship. So a lot of the members said that they felt different energy in there versus, so I have sat in a cabinet before, and to me, how you describe it, how there's a lot of energy in there. Maybe it's because I'm a feeler and I can feel the difference being in there, so yeah, it's I love how you describe that.
It's like electric, but it's like it feels electric, but it feels like a closeness, on you when you're sitting in there. It's like a bun in the oven, you got it in, it's just such small,
Mm-hmm.
And I think I like the way, because when I did a lesson with Scott Milligan, he said it's like the womb, when you're going into the womb and you're there and you're just developing in the womb, and that's what I feel that the cabinet is, developing, you and your baby steps of development.
Oh my God, I love how you describe that. Okay, so if you can remember, I know you've been doing it for so long still, and this is your ongoing development. What was your first experience of any physical phenomena within your circle that you may not have recorded it, but what was your first thing that happened?
I remember being really excited, and I think it was about feeling now just a little touch on your skin or a touch on your hand, and I know the sitters felt that as well, and they're like, oh wow, they could feel that they were being physically touched, but also the taps, the raps and the taps. That was the first things that started happening in our circle. And I just remember being really excited about it. after when I came out and they're telling me about it, oh wow, that's brilliant, you know, and we used to be just excited for the smallest thing that happened, you know.
Oh my God. Well, those small things, anybody would be thinking they're such a big thing. So I mean, I could just imagine that, you know, very, very exciting.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you producing ectoplasm, and do you have any awareness of where it comes from? Or, you know, I know we talked a little bit about before we started, so if you can kind of explain the ectoplasm thing that's happening.
Right. Well, for me, it's like, because my awareness is not there, I do feel the energy building up around my face and around this side of the head, and my sitters are aware of that. And they are having a faint smell of sulfur happening, and it's happened, and I must say it's only happened like strongly 3 times that they've all smelt it, because I have to believe that if something's happening, not only one sitter would have to smell it, but they'd all have to smell it, see, because otherwise it's not physical. And it's about seeing it as well. And so I'm aware of feeling that my solar plexus is getting fluid. So it's like really strange feeling of getting fluid. And that's when my consciousness is like, okay, it's just here, outside of myself, but here, just perceiving like, oh, it's getting fluid. And then I also feeling the energy build up here. And then suddenly you can feel suddenly you're just being brought down that little bit further. And then that's when you feel it feels for me like a utopic feeling. At that moment, that's when the sitters, all of them, are feeling something's going on in the cabinet. Now, me having an analytical mind, I'd rather have a photograph of what's going on to say, hey guys, look, but because we're in baby steps and we haven't got that, and I haven't got permission from my guide to do it yet, even though I'm like, well, come on guys, if you want me to make a photograph of this, I would like to make one, but I'm still waiting on confirmation from the spirit world, from the guides themselves, because everything we do in the circle has to be first confirmed with them before we go looking for evidence like that, you know.
You know what, everybody says the same thing, like they won't share certain things because, you know, they haven't gotten permission yet to do that.
No.
The sulfur smell, I don't know how many people I've talked to have told me that's the smell that they get when they're sitting or they're at a, you know, seance or, you know, and they describe such a weird smell. And I think I did some posts about it in the group, and so many people came on. I cannot wait to smell that and sit in a circle and have that, or have that experience. So that's pretty amazing. I'm sure when you start getting that permission, that'll be like, please let me know, you know.
I'll let you know, definitely. But I'm still waiting on permission, and you know that's what we're waiting on. Everything that we do in our circle is we ask the guides what's needed, and they'll say yes, that's right, no, that's not right, and that's how it works, you know.
Oh yeah. Okay, so can physical mediumship affect your health? And if it does, how does your family feel about that?
Well, it can affect your health. It can very well. And I think really to understand is with physical mediumship is because it's drawing enzymes and stuff out of your body that, you know, and it's using minerals and proteins and stuff. It can have an effect on your body. My family hasn't really mentioned too much of a concern about it. I suppose if it had affected my health so much where they said no, well, then they would have mentioned their concerns about it. One thing I do is I'm very much, because I used to be a male nurse, I'm into prevention. So I take my magnesium, I take my zinc, I take my calcium, so I'm taking my minerals that are known, and potassium. So I'm taking these things in so that I can replenish what's needed in seances. And I also have a very healthy and balanced diet as well, because yeah, you know, you can't just do this and just think, oh, well, you know, we'll just do it. And you gotta be working in a preventive way, I believe.
No, that's
Yeah.
great. And I think you might be like the third person that I've interviewed that was very, was stressing, or at least talking about taking care of yourself, and the vitamins and the supplements. So,
And another thing to remember, just popped into my mind, is sometimes after a seance, you could be feeling like, oh God, you just feel really that you're out of it. And then there is something called ORS, and in ORS are all the salts and a bit of magnesium and stuff. And when you take that, that can replenish it, and then suddenly you feel okay. Or I'd have a banana by the hand with potassium in it, that you're just getting something in that's got not only quick working sugars in it, but it's got the potassium and stuff in it. And the ORS we always have on hand afterwards, so that if anything needs to be replenished, it's there.
I'm going to tell you right now, there's going to be a lot of questions about the ORS, because I don't know what that is.
All right, ORS. It's when that you can buy it in the chemist, but it's like it's got magnesium, it's got salts in it. You put it in water, and what it helps is it rehydrates you.
Okay.
Right. But because of the magnesium content and the salts and things, I think you guys are into drinks. You know, these sport drinks have got all this little things in that are good for you.
Yes.
Some people drink those afterwards, you see.
Okay.
Replenish the body with what's needed.
Okay, that's good to know then. So this next question, and I recently changed it, because normally I'd say deeper. When you go and sit for physical, are you in a deep state? Do you go higher or lower? I'm going to say that, deeper or higher state.
Well, I went on I've been on the Science Week in the Arthur Findlay, and I had myself tested there because I wanted to know, where am I going? And when they measured on the frontal lobe, they're like, oh, you're going down into a nice trance state. And they could see, that's nice, you're going down to a trance state. Since then, there's been a lot of work, and I've had myself measured by Susanna Temple.
Yes.
So I do know where I'm going, which I'll let you know in a minute. But it's like when I go into trance state, every time it feels like it's changing, it's different. They're taking me to different spaces, different places. Some moments I'll be feeling I'll be in a space where I'm feeling quite in a utopia, and I'm seeing a white light, and that's all I'm aware of. Sometimes my awareness is here, and sometimes my awareness is further away, like it feels like it's in the next room, but it's observing what's going on. And what's interesting is when I had the feeling that my awareness was here, I thought, well, if my awareness is here, then I must be in my mind. But when they measured it in Arthur Findlay College, they found that I wasn't, because I was in with the primitive way of measuring, let's put it that way, I was in a trance state. After being measured by Susanna Temple, she found that I was going into an higher frequency state. So I would be going into, there were moments when I was in an awakened mind, and there were moments when I was in a, what they would call in that awakened mind, evolved mind. And that was really interesting. The most interesting thing is, in my seance, everyone is feeling, wow, he's going really deep, and it's getting very cold, and it's electric, and I think, oh, wow, this is amazing. But when it's measured, it's a higher frequency state. So it's amazing that's what's happening. And there's more and more mediums, I think, that are getting measured now. They're finding they're going into the higher states instead of like going in where people think that they're going, you know?
Yeah. And I'm really glad that you're bringing this up, because I know Warren did an interview with Suzanne, and that's in the group. So
it's wonderful.
Yeah. Oh my God. It's amazing work. And that's where are you going higher, or are you going lower or deeper, you know? So, but thank you for sharing that with us. That's sounds so exciting to be able to go and have that work done with her, you
But
know.
I have given myself up to her for, in my progression, I let her measure me once every 6 months to
Right.
see what is happening in development with someone that's developing for physical mediumship. So it's nice for her research
Oh,
and to be
sure.
part of that research, you see.
Yeah, amazing, amazing.
Yeah.
What was your first evidential communication that came through?
Let's think. Oh, that would be Chief, who I'd called Chief, um, and Chief White Eagle, and that was a very nice communication.
Were the words, like some people were talking about when spirits first start speaking through during physical mediumship, the words are jumbled or they're backwards, or so this is a lot of the talk that's happening within the group. Was it fluid? Did it just come out? Was it like one word, or?
It wasn't many words at all. I think it was hello, I am Chief, and that was it, and goodbye. And it wasn't very much at all. But I remember something that I'd been told from what I've learned is just be happy for the smallest things that come through, and it just encourages for more to follow.
Oh, sure.
You know.
Oh my God, yeah. Now that would have been super exciting just to hear that.
Yeah.
How long, since you've been developing, did it take before you had your first occurrence? Even if it was a rap or the coldness coming in?
I feel that the raps they started happening, I think, after about 6 months. You know, because we were always, as a circle, is it a rap? Could it have been our mind? Could it have been somebody's chair moving? So we're all very like, we've got to make sure that it really is a rap. And I think it was about 6 months to people said, okay, that's a rap. The coldness happened around then as well. It was getting very cold. Yes.
Is the communication now getting more refined since the first hello?
Yes, I mean they can they can have whole conversations, question and answers. Oliver came through the last time in Seance just to tell everyone how it's going, what he'd like, what is good, what's not right, and was just answering questions and answers. And his voice, they're working on the voice with him, because in the beginning his voice wasn't as pure as it is now. And it's with the other guides as well, like Chief White Eagle, when he comes through, his voice is a lot more fluid, he's a lot more spoken, he'll be sharing philosophy and ideas, when in the beginning it was just hello.
Hello.
You know.
Are you recording that stuff now, or have you not gotten permission yet?
To record it. We do record anything that is circle orientated at the moment, and I am planning to, if they come back, because we're always listening to the guides, and I think that's the main thing to remember. There is, like, in the recipe of the physical mediumship, they say you should have this, you should have so many sitters, you should have. But it's all about the balance. Mm-hmm. It's all about listening to your guides and computer communicators that are coming through, because you don't want to be rushing into anything that's not right. I normally get a signal before something's going to be recorded. So I'll suddenly, 15 minutes before I arrive, I have to go and grab the recorder, and I walk in and I say, and then everyone knows, okay, there's going to be something happening now. Mm-hmm. But not every circle, because it's like they like to talk, and when it's needed. But they're like, at the moment, they wanted to take me through a lot of different trance levels, and that's what they've been working on. So they're like, when in the speaking stage, you're at a different level within your trance, and then the moment I've finished speaking, it's like then they take me down. Then that's when the physical energy starts, and it starts getting interesting. What that will turn out to be, I don't know, but I just know that they're just progressing in the way they're doing it, because I think I'm very skeptical and analytical in my mind, because why would a guide have to come in and say hello every time to the circle when he knows everything's right? You know, that's how it is. And when we're talking about trance speaking, the physical mediumship happens when the speaking stops. That's what I've found. There's only really good physical mediums that I know, like David Thompson, that I've actually seen speaking and trance and physical happening at the same time, where I thought, wow, that's amazing. Wow. But in my development, it's like they take me through stages. So then in the winter months, they'll go quiet. And I found in the spring, they start to talk a bit more. It's really funny. So that's how it's developing with me.
The trance speaking, all the information that comes through, is this something that the information that comes through, are you like recording it? Are you going to be guided to write a book one day? Are you bringing this information forward to people other than the circle?
Yes, I mean, if there's anything said that's really rich, and I do plan to share it. I do keep the recordings, and I do plan to share it in the future. In what form that will happen, well, we will have to wait and see what happens. But I believe there'll be progression in that. So
I love all the information that comes through. Reading everything about it, it's beautiful. Listening to recordings, people's sittings. Oh, it's amazing. I love it.
Well, I love listening to Chief, because Chief has a different Chief White Eagle has a different belief system to me. So he can be talking about the elementals, and he can be talking about the elementals, how they integrate, and all this sort of stuff that I don't know about, because I don't like to research stuff about what Chief would know. And when we were in Canada and he was talking to them, they were like, wow, he just knew everything, the questions that needed to be answered by the people that were sitting there. He knew the answers to them, which I wouldn't know, because I haven't studied elementals. I haven't studied that sort of thing. So it's interesting that the intelligence of the mind of spirit knows the answers to the questions before they've even been asked, and they bypass me as well, which is good, you know.
Yeah, you know what? I think I interviewed Chris Ratter, and he mentioned something about the elementals and how that energy, in his understanding, is required. Like there's something there that helps with the trance, or the trance healing, or maybe even the physical mediumship. So yeah, very interesting.
Interesting.
Very interesting. Okay, so when it's time to come back, when you're out and you're either here or you're gone, or you're seeing the white lights, what's your sign? Do they just bring you back really gently, or you're like that?
I come back really gently, but I have what you call a coming out song. So I have a song that brings me back, and since they've been taking me deeper, I have two songs, and one of them's Time to Say Goodbye by I don't know who it is now, but some opera singer.
Oh yeah.
I think you probably know it is. And then the other one is another song that brings me back, and it's just songs that myself recognizes, oh, it's time to come back, and it's like a gentle returning to the space. And I only needed one song to come back, but now I need two, because I find that they're taking me deeper, of, let's say, higher, as they're measuring it.
Deep and high,
It's just, and it takes longer time to come back. So, yeah.
Okay, so I want to ask you about this one. So have apports come through any of your circle? Have they started coming through?
Yes, we have a few apports. And you're the first guys outside the circle that we've ever told this. I don't know if I told you about my son the last time, and he had an operation on scoliosis.
I don't.
He was actually meant to go for an operation for scoliosis, and it was they had to operate on his back, the whole thing. And the spirit guide said, oh, let him come into the circle. So we let him come and sit in the circle. And me as a father, I'm sitting there in my emotions thinking, oh, I really, wouldn't like him to have this operation. I'd like him not to go through the pain, but it's the only way forward. And when he sat in the circle, we found a very small baby pearl on the table that was not there before. Wow. And in the middle of the circle. And when we found that, we were all in awe, because the story of the pearl is like when a pearl is made, it's a grain of sand that comes into the oyster, and first it has to be painful and go through the process before it gets to coating, and then it becomes that beautiful pearl of wisdom that feels more comfortable in the end. And it was that message, I think, receiving that pearl was so big for us, also for my son didn't understand it. He thought, well, it's just a pearl on the table, because he's a teenager. But we were like, for me as a father, it was like, the message is, it's going to be all right. And since we had that apport on the table in the middle of the circle, his operation went fine, and he can do everything he did before. He's weight training and doing sport and everything. So that's great. Oh, yes. That was our first apport. The second one, we found a lock of hair on the table, which was just after my aunt died, in the same colour. And I was sitting with my sister there, and before the table was clear, and then we're just sitting there, and suddenly there was a lock of hair there. So it's amazing that could happen as well. And they're just little small things. And I don't think I could tell you how they materialized. But when we looked before, there was nothing there. And when we look afterwards, it was there.
Oh, that must have been so touching, though, to see that pearl and know the story of what that pearl represents. And then the lock of hair. Yeah, I mean, I don't even know where this stuff comes from, but just to hear those experiences, it's amazing to me, how meaningful that is. Yes. Okay. When you're sitting in your circle, it's completely dark. So that's can outwards come through in light, or is it just dark, or do you know?
I've never experienced an apport come through in light. I know of other mediums that I've heard of, so as Nicole de Haas, where she's experienced apports coming through the light. So there is a possibility. I haven't had that experience with apports coming through in the light.
At least not yet, right?
Not yet,
Oh my goodness. Okay, so do you, and I wanted to ask you this question, do you have like guest sitters come through as you're sitting there for your physical? I'm not sure what it's called, like a demonstration or a seance. Do you have other people other than your regular circle members there present?
I don't at the moment, but I have been encouraged to invite people in, just one at a time, just to experience the experience. So I've been encouraged to do that. And I do what I call not the seance demonstrations, but the trance demonstrations. I do them in Canada, and I do a sort of I do in a dark room, but my guides can come through and communicate, and they experience a lot of energy things happening there as well.
Wow!
Yeah,
just amazing. So before you prepare for your circle, for physical, do you do anything special before, or you just make sure you're balanced before you start your circle? Is there any preparation before circle starts?
I take my vitamins, I take my minerals, I make sure I'm all tanked up on everything I need. I eat a very light meal. I don't eat very much at all before going into circle. When I come in to the place where I'm going to sit, I'll come in half an hour before. I get changed, and I'll sit alone for 15 minutes, just letting myself go into the trance state, just gently. and then that I've just touched the trance state and I can just come back out, so I'm altering my consciousness, relaxing, turning off from the day and, kids and everything, that you just get into that peace and quiet before you start. And I found that really helps, because by the time I have to sit, which will be a quarter of an hour after that, then I can go very quickly into the trance altered state, let's put it that way.
Wow. Oh my goodness. So this is a question that members have come up with. And so, are there any pioneers from the past that have come in observing your circle that you have awareness of that are there, or that, have you had that experience yet?
We did have this one time. We had an idea that Albert Best came in and was observing, and it was funny because I felt a communication happening, and I didn't recognize it. Mm-hmm. And then afterwards, I know there was a couple of people there. They felt that, and I just know he mentioned his name, Albert, and I don't know why, but it was just a moment. He's never been back again, but he was just observing. He came through, and the mediums that were sitting there, they all picked up. Oh, that's Albert Best. Well, of course, this was about two and a half years ago, so it's just happened once. But I am aware that now and again pioneers I'll be aware of them there just before I sit, and then when I go into trance, I'm not aware anymore of what's happening or who's there. But I really enjoy bringing through my own guides and inspirers. Because I just love the connection that I have with them, you see.
Yeah. Can you, again, tell us your guides' names and your inspirers that come through?
Oliver, and Oliver is a gentleman's gentleman. He's into a gentleman's clubs and likes a brandy, and he's he's quite a cheerful man, but full of knowledge about metaphysical matters. That's what he's about. He normally tells us what's going on with the chemists that are working in circle or anything like that. And then we have Chief White Eagle, and Chief White Eagle, he comes in, he normally gives philosophy about what's his way of philosophy of life, and basically a wonderful person. And what he gave us, and I think every one of the guides gave us a little bit of information, because I was interested, where did he come from? And all I was seeing was the Rocky Mountains. So I was looking for the Rocky Mountains. Little did I know that the Rocky Mountains were in Canada. And then, so I was like, okay. And I even Googled, I've got to find the Rocky Mountains. And apparently that was where he was, in that area, in what you call North America, Canada. So that was very interesting. That he could pinpoint that, but he normally comes with, he brings a sort of intense healing energy with him, but also an intense wisdom, because the culture that he brings through is amazing. Then we have Sophia, and Sophia is a gentleman that is a monk, but more of a Franciscus monk, and when he comes through, it's just like, the feeling that you get when you've walked into a church, all the sitters, they say to me, when Sophia comes in, they're like, oh, now we've got to listen, because it's suddenly Sophia's turned up. And at that moment, I normally go a lot deeper at that moment, but it's like he brings a presence with him that is to be felt by all the so that's quite Rosa, which doesn't communicate just yet, but Rosa is a lovely lady that comes from Italy, and she's very vibrant, very caring, and brings a very loving energy, a gentle energy with her. And at the moment, that's the guides and inspirers that I'm aware of. Obviously, there's more working in the circle. But these are the ones I'm aware of at the moment.
Amazing. I've also heard that there's an inspire or a guide there, somebody there that helps lift the energy up, where you have to, they might make you laugh, and like that's their whole job, is to keep the energy high. Is that your experience? Do you have one of those that does that for you?
I know Oliver can be. It depends what mood he's in. He's normally always in a good mood, but if it's a question and answer thing, then he'll be like, oh, I've got to get these question and answers answered, and he'll be to the point. But when he comes in and he's just coming to say hello to the sitters, he can be very cheerful and very jolly, and has everyone happy and in the right mood in the beginning. It's very nice to hear. Yes.
That's what I've noticed, is that when people share their experience of their circles, and that the spirits that come through, there's always one that like their energy is a little bit high to keep everybody lifted, you know?
He might even crack a few jokes. It just depends what's going on, you know?
Oh my goodness. Okay. So in your physical mediumship, luckily enough, you've been developing under 4 years now.
Yes.
In the beginning, was there something that you realized was maybe a mistake that you made, that you had, was there a mistake that you made so far in your development that you wish that you didn't do?
I think if I'd had listened to the advice I was getting from my medium friends, but also from people and the spirit, from just sit for yourself, and the amount of readings I had, you should sit in your own circle and not sit for others. If I'd listened to that, I would have sat a lot longer now than what I've sat. I do believe it took that amount of time. If I could have changed that, I would have sat early. I would have sat a lot more. So that's something I would change, and I would have listened more to just let yourself go, just enjoy the moment, and because it's funny. It's a big change when you're used to being the sitter that's giving, and then you're going to say, oh, now they're going to be sitting for me. It's like, not used to that. I'm normally the giver.
But, I wonder if your experience of sitting for so many others and being dedicated to do that would actually help you with your own sitters that were going to sit for you. So you would have an idea if, the dedication was or wasn't there, or something was missing. So I would look at it like you had to go through that process to have this perfect group of sitters now.
Yes,
So.
Absolutely. And also what happened to me in that process, I became a really strong battery, sitting for other people. So my energy and power became very, very strong. And that's what I built up over all the years of sitting for other people. So when people sat for me, it also became a very wonderful, powerful energy that could be used through the spirit world.
Yeah. Wow. Amazing.
Yeah.
Let me see. What is the most unusual thing that you have experienced while going down or in trance or starting the physical? Is there something unusual that stands out for you?
I think the most unusual thing was there's a few unusual things. One unusual thing was where I physically felt my hand laying on the chair like that, and I just felt suddenly a little prick in my hand, and it was like and I could feel it was like, ooh, and the moment I felt it was sore, I went whoosh, I was gone.
Wow.
And it was like, so that was spirit orientated.
Mm-hmm.
It was really strange that could happen that quickly, and then I was suddenly in a place of light, and that was one of the most unusual things that I felt, where I felt the prick, and then I was down. Wow. Another thing was where I felt that I suddenly could feel myself going shuddering down like this, and that was quite unusual. The feeling of getting smaller in yourself. And that was quite strange as well.
Wow.
Just like falling down layers like that. Yeah.
See, that's an important question here, because as people, you know, within all the group and all the people that are watching these interviews, if they had that experience now and they listen to this and they're going to be like, oh, this is what he's talking about. This is what I'm experiencing, you know, so I'm glad. I love the questions that the members are asking, because I would not have thought of some of these questions, you know, on my own. But yeah, I can just imagine. It's very interesting how you're describing that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to say it this way. Do you have any advice on how to go deeper or higher into letting the guides have more control, or going there?
I think the best advice I can give anyone going deeper or higher is to let go of the idea of going deeper or higher and just let go, you know, relax. I think that's one thing. And what I find is every time I sit, the easiest way I can go to the space I need to go, where the spirit world wants me, is I go into a very passive state, but I just relax, and I offer my energy, I offer the moment to the spirit world. Mm-hmm. And in that time, I'm letting go, but I invite my guides and inspirers that moment, just that they can take over now. It's fine. So it's like I offer my energy and my power and my moments to them, and I just leave it in their hands. And that really helps letting go of the conscious mind very quickly. And I think another thing to remember is we always think, well, if my consciousness is here, then I'm still in the room. Well, the moments I've been measured where I felt my consciousness is here, I'm actually in the higher state, or I'm in Alpha Finley, I'm in a lower state, but obviously I'm in that altered state of consciousness, even though I'm here. So because there's a little thing I could teach you guys, which is a little thing to me. If you smile like your brain's always going 120, times to the minute, all these thoughts and ideas. But if you just take the time to smile at your brain and say, oh, how funny the brain is and how funny your mind is, and you smile at it. And when you're smiling at your brain, it's quite funny, and you just smile at your mind, you smile at your brain. What happens to your thoughts?
Interesting.
They normally get quieter.
Mm-hmm.
But also, because you're smiling at your mind and smiling at your brain, it shows your brain or your mind that your consciousness is in a different space than your mental mind. And that's one way of letting people feel like smiling now your mind is that your consciousness is in a different space.
Interesting. Very, very nice, Yeah. Oh my goodness. All right. I want to talk about the stuff that you are currently doing. I know I wanted to, I think I mentioned this in the beginning, I'm not sure. You offer a lot of things online. And so that is on, what is it, JasonGoldsworthy.com?
Yes.
And you're starting to do things online, and where a lot of members, they can't reach where you're at. So I definitely wanted you to share a little bit about what you offer.
Well, I offer coaching for people that need coaching within their mediumship. I have done mentorship and teaching with certain students that need help. I've helped people in Canada in that way. And I've also done a sort of online class that I didn't mind getting up early in the morning to do for guys in a different country. And I really don't mind doing that, because I think it's really important for people that can't travel to me or travel to anywhere else. It's really important to be able to bring that information, knowledge, and learning to people, in the comfort of their own homes. So I am planning to put on more of the teaching online in the future, and that will be coming up. So there'll be different things that I'll be working on in between my working time to get that up and running.
Okay, that'd be wonderful. Now, I know you recently, I think when we did the last interview, you had an event. So whenever you have your events, that would be wonderful if you can share that within the group. I know we have, like all the members, there's a new post that we have, and it's a tag post. So it will always be there. So whenever there are events within the group or guests that have done interviews with me, they share their events there. And so you'll always know when something's coming up. So Jason, definitely share within the group if you have anything going on. So that
I actually had a few people from the group the last time, and they had some very good questions about trance, and
really
so it was a question and answer thing I was doing. So it was good to have people coming and asking their questions. Very good. Yeah.
Perfect. Oh my goodness, Jason, I'm so grateful to you for sharing your ongoing development with physical mediumship. The way you describe things, this is a fabulous interview. You have such beautiful energy, and the way you share, I'm just so grateful to you, because I know a lot of the members are going to really connect with the information, because I know they did the first time, and I can only hope when this interview gets released, which will be today, that we don't have any issues with I think it was Facebook. It got deleted, something happened, and then it was very, very strange how that happened. But anyway,
I forgot to mention, Kathy, strange things happen with me with computers and stuff like that. So that's not new to me.
Oh my goodness.
And with music in the whenever we're playing music, we use Bluetooth. We put it on airplane mode, but the music switches itself on and off.
Oh my God.
And even when I test it beforehand, it's fine. And I can use it a quarter of an hour beforehand, half an hour beforehand, and we just move it into the seance room, and it starts straight away, turning itself on and off.
Oh my goodness.
Navigation system in my car, it plans its own route now, away from the route that I want to be going. So anything to do with computers, if it's not working, I leave the room. So Yeah,
and I never had that happen before, but I did hear that with physical mediums, they have a lot of physical activity like that. So, well, let's just hope for the best today, that we have no problems with the Facebook stuff today. But Jason, oh my God. Okay, everybody. JasonGoldsworthy.com, Spirit Medium Jason Goldsworthy. That's Facebook. So definitely connect with Jason that way. If you haven't checked out his first interview, this was Trance Healing. I mean, it was an awesome interview. So definitely check that out. It'll be within the group, in the group's album, my personal page, but definitely on the YouTube channel, Kathy Beltran. So definitely find it there, watch it. Jason, again, thank you for doing this part 2 with us. I'm just so forever grateful to you.
You're welcome. You're very welcome, Kathy. It was lovely to see you again, and lovely to talk to you.
It's always nice to talk with you. You're just so down to earth. It's just wonderful. But so I know it's getting late for you. Well, not that late, but still kind of in the evening. So I hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening, and thank you very much again.
I will. You're welcome. It's been a pleasure.
Pleasure. Thank you very much. Okay. Bye, Jason.
Thank you. Bye-bye.